Welcome to Empathy Stories, where we dive into the moments that redefine our perceptions and challenge our hearts. Today's story is about an unexpected dinner invitation that turns into a life-changing experience. What begins as a calculated gesture evolves into a profound connection that transcends social boundaries. Let's begin. Lucas Harrington, a wealthy businessman known for his cold and calculating demeanor, invites his housemaid, Amara, to a mysterious dinner under the guise of discussing her future. Little does she know, Lucas sees it as an experiment, his attempt to test the dynamics between them. However, as the evening unfolds, Amara reveals sides of herself that challenge Lucas's preconceived notions. What was intended as a test turns into an eye-opening experience for him, one that leaves Lucas captivated by her strength, intelligence, and grace. Both lives are transformed, and Lucas is left changed forever. Lucas Harrington was a man of wealth, power, and solitude, known for his sharp mind and ruthless business tactics. He rarely associated with those he considered beneath his social rank. For him, life was a series of calculated moves, a game where emotions only served to hinder progress. But one evening, something unusual caught his attention. Amara, his housemaid, a reserved yet graceful woman who had worked quietly in his mansion for years, seemed to radiate a different energy that day. She had always been diligent, maintaining her distance and performing her duties with dignity. But that evening, Lucas noticed a spark in her that intrigued him. It was a quiet evening, and Lucas was in his study reviewing his latest investments when a thought crossed his mind. Perhaps it was boredom, or perhaps a desire for a distraction. But he decided to do something out of character. He invited Amara to dinner the next evening. He framed the invitation as a discussion about her future, a conversation he imagined might stir up feelings of nervousness or honor. But in truth, it was all an experiment for him, a test to see if Amara would remain as composed at his table as she did in her role as his maid. It was a strange curiosity, a desire to see her out of her usual position. Little did he know, the evening would unravel in ways he had never anticipated. Amara, surprised and uncertain, received the invitation with a mix of suspicion. For years, Lucas had been nothing more than a distant figure, issuing basic instructions and polite formalities. To suddenly be invited to dine with him felt surreal. She wondered if she had done something wrong or if this invitation was meant to discuss her future employment. The mention of her future stirred both hope and anxiety in her. She knew Lucas as a man of few words, a person who saw people more as assets than as individuals. Yet, despite her doubts, she decided to approach the evening with grace, determined to face whatever came with dignity. The following day, Amara spent extra time preparing for the dinner. She wore a simple yet elegant dress, one she rarely had the chance to wear, and as she looked at herself in the mirror, she felt a mixture of nerves and pride. Tonight, she was stepping outside her usual role. She reminded herself that she was more than just a maid. Tonight, she was determined to show Lucas that dignity wasn't defined by wealth. When Amara entered the dining room, Lucas was already seated. For the first time, he felt a strange sense of admiration as she walked in with calm confidence. Her posture was straight, her eyes clear, and she didn't seem intimidated, intrigued, and unsettled by her presence. He gestured for her to sit, and she did so across from him, maintaining a composed air. The silence between them was thick, and Lucas realized he had underestimated her presence. What he thought would be a trivial dinner soon felt significant. Lucas tried to engage her in small talk, expecting her to respond meekly. But Amara surprised him. Her responses were intelligent, thoughtful, and sometimes tinged with quiet humor that caught him off guard. She spoke with wisdom gained from years of experience, her voice steady, her gaze unwavering. Lucas found himself listening more intently than he had in years, genuinely interested in what she had to say. Amara spoke about her life with honesty, not seeking sympathy, but instead talking about the strength she had found in adversity. She shared her pride in the work she did and the dream she still hoped to fulfill. Lucas, once only focused on business transactions and cold logic, began to feel something shift within him. He had expected to see a maid, someone beneath him, but instead, he was faced with a person of depth, resilience, and quiet ambition for the first time in his life. He wondered what it would be like to see the world through her eyes. As the dinner continued, Lucas realized the experiment was no longer about her, but about him. His assumptions about her shattered. He found himself captivated not by her role, but by her as a person, someone with a rich life, thoughts, and dreams as complex as his own. Her wisdom, her self-assurance, and her grace had completely disarmed him. For the first time in years, Lucas was not playing a game. He was engaged in an honest conversation, something he had long forgotten. Amara noticed Lucas's shift in attitude, but remained cautious. She had heard stories about him, the ruthless businessman who saw people as tools. But tonight, he seemed different, almost vulnerable. Still, she kept some distance, unsure of his motives. She spoke openly, but held back her deepest thoughts, sharing her past with its struggles and sacrifices. By the time dessert was served, the tone of the evening had completely changed. Lucas no longer saw Amara as a maid. He saw her as a person with dreams, values, and a life just as complicated as his own. He found himself asking about her dreams, genuinely curious. Amara hesitated but shared her passion for helping others. Her dream of one day running a community center in her neighborhood to support underprivileged families. Lucas was taken aback by the sincerity and ambition in her words. For the first time, he was moved by someone's selflessness, their desire to give back despite facing tremendous obstacles. As the evening came to a close, Lucas realized he didn't want it to end. He had never felt so connected to another person, so deeply moved. As they said their goodbyes, he found himself saying something unexpected. "I'd like to do this again, if you'd be willing." Amara paused before responding, a small smile tugging at her lips. "I would like that." The next morning, Lucas woke up with a sense of anticipation. He couldn't stop thinking about Amara, the strength she had shown, the way she had opened his eyes to a world he had never considered. Over the next few days, Lucas found himself distracted, longing for another conversation with her. He wanted to understand her world, her perspective, to know more about the woman who had so profoundly affected him. Amara, meanwhile, returned to her duties, but she couldn't ignore the impact the dinner had on her. She found herself thinking about Lucas, about the man behind the cold exterior. Despite her caution, she began to sense a connection with him, one that stirred both warmth and fear in her. She wasn't sure where it would lead, but she couldn't deny the bond that had formed between them. Lucas found himself observing her from a distance, admiring the way she carried herself with dignity despite the hardships she had endured. He began to understand just how much he had overlooked in his life, how insulated he had been by his wealth and status. For the first time, he realized how little he knew about the struggles faced by people like Amara, how privileged his life had been in comparison. He wanted to do more for her, but he didn't want to overstep. In the weeks that followed, their connection deepened. Lucas started to show genuine interest in her life, asking her about her dreams, her past, and her goals. Slowly, Amara began to trust him, seeing in him a man who was willing to understand her, to stand beside her despite the societal barriers that separated them. However, not everyone was as supportive of their bond. Richard, one of Lucas's longtime business associates, noticed the growing closeness between Lucas and Amara and disapproved. His subtle judgments created tension, and Lucas began to realize the full extent of the prejudices that existed in his world. He knew that his relationship with Amara would never be accepted by everyone, but he was determined to make it work. Amara, too, felt the pressure. She had worked hard for her independence and her dreams, and she feared that becoming too close to Lucas would risk losing herself. Yet, she found herself drawn to him in a way she couldn't explain. She, too, had never experienced this level of connection before. Despite the challenges, they continued to support each other. Amara worked tirelessly to bring her community center dream to life, and Lucas quietly supported her, offering advice and connections without overstepping. Their relationship, once seen as improbable, became a source of strength for both of them. In time, Amara's community center became a reality. It was a place where children could learn, where families could find support, and where dreams could begin to take shape. The opening day was a celebration of all that they had overcome. And as Lucas stood beside her, he knew that the love they had fought for was worth every challenge they had faced. They had built something truly unique, a love that transcended barriers and proved that, with respect, resilience, and mutual admiration, anything was possible. Together, they had proven that true love could unite even the most divided of worlds. And as they looked ahead to the future, they knew that no matter what obstacles lay in their path, they would face them side by side, united by their love and their shared vision for a better tomorrow. Thank you for joining us here on Empathy Stories. This tale reminds us that true strength lies in understanding, and love can bridge even the widest divides. If this story inspired you, please like, share, and subscribe for more captivating journeys of transformation and connection. Together, let's build a world where empathy leads the way. See you in the next story.